to another installment of Carolingia's Test Kitchen. I'm Zolane Faber, and today we're going to be cooking a recipe from my favorite historical cookbook, The Art of Cooking, published by Martino of Como around 1465. The recipe we'll be doing today is called Migliaccio. This term derives from the word for millet or milled flour in general. Modernly, there is a Migliaccio, which tends to be a kind of sweet cake made with ricotta, but as we'll see, Martino has a slightly different recipe in mind. He says, to make a Migliaccio for 4 or 5 persons, crush a libra of the freshest cheese that you can get until it resembles milk, and take 3 or 4 ounces of sifted flour and 8 or 10 egg whites, and a half libra of sugar, and mix all these things together, incorporating well. If you do not have sifted flour, take some bread white and grate finely, adding it in place of the flour. Add some good rendered lard to a pan without any dough or crust, and place the pan over hot coals until the lard is well heated, and then toss the mixture in, applying moderate heat below and above as for the other torts. As soon as it is done, remove and top with some good sugar and rose water. As usual, we've never cooked this recipe before, so let's see what happens. For our first step, Martino tells us to take fresh cheese and crush it until it resembles milk, which is a pretty tall order, but to give us our best chance of success, I'm combining a 1/4 pound of mozzarella and a 1/4 pound of ricotta in the hopes that these might resemble the type of fresh cheese that he would have been working with. Now, I'm going to crush them in a food processor. You could certainly do this in a mortar and pestle. I think you get much the same result, but I'll spend a while longer doing it. So see, this doesn't really resemble milk. I don't know that there's anything we could do to thin it out short of adding more milk, but this is pretty smooth, and we're going to interpret that that's what Martino had in mind. Now we're going to combine our ingredients together. I have here the whites of 5 large eggs. I have a 1/4 pound of white sugar. I have 2 ounces of sifted flour. We do not need to make use of bread white because we are lucky to have flour. And I have the pulverized cheese from earlier. So we're just going to mix in our sugar first. Heat in the flour. And finally, we'll incorporate our cheese mixture. Alright, so we have a relatively smooth batter, and we're ready to get in the oven. Next, we want to heat up our cooking fat. Now, Martino tells us to use lard. Due to shortages at the moment, I do not have any lard, so we're going to use 3 tablespoons of Crisco. Crisco is a reasonably good texture substitute for lard, and as a side effect, that's also going to make this recipe vegetarian. So I'm just going to pop this in a 400-degree oven to get it good and hot. Next, we're going to add our delightful mixture to the very hot oil. Martino tells us to cook from above and below, and our modern oven does a very good job of that. So we'll just pour this right in here. You can see it starting to bubble and fry already. I didn't know how long this would take to cook, Martino not having said, so we just kept an eye on it until the top set a little bit. It jiggled but was no longer a liquid. That took about 15 minutes. So we've taken it out, we've given it a minute to set up and not be quite as hot, and now we'll decant it. So this is a little bit messy, surprising considering all of the fat under it, which must have been pushed to the side as it cooked. There we are. We'll just cut ourselves a piece. And let's see how this tastes. Doesn't have a strong flavor. It is sweet and cheesy. The edge, as you can see, has browned up very nicely. The top is still very soft. So I guess I'd say in some ways the closest analogous dish might be something like a fried cheesecake. It's a little bit more mild than that, and definitely we're eating it hot instead of cold, but I think this is definitely worth you giving a try. Bon appetit.